This is the Louie T Network. You are now officially in the lab room. It's that time again. It's that time again to go hard in the off season, cause we trying to win. We gon' go so hard, we don't take no days off. Hopefully one day it's all gonna pay off.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 2017 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, where your man Louie T aims to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League. Using our baseball grading scale, single, double, triple, home run, there are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series. We cannot tell how these players are going to pan out, and I don't want to discount any of these young men before they get their chance in the National Football League. And so we will give a score to each and every single player selected by X said team in the draft. We'll then apply bonuses when necessary. We'll then divide by the number of picks, which will then yield us an overall grade for that team's draft. We'll then move on to the next team in the series picked by you. That's right, you, the viewer, are in total control, as this is the You Pick format, or as I like to call it, the Up format. Simply be the first to leave a comment in the comment section of this and future videos stating two things, the phrase next and the team you'd like to see next. It's really simple, folks. Let's not make this any harder than it is. It's just two words, okay? Titans, next. Colts, next. Next. Cowboys, next. Boys, you get the picture, you get the drift. Make it short, sweet, and simple, fast, efficient, and be first, okay? And so, let's jump into the team that you guys out there have spoken and said that was gonna be next in the series, the Tennessee Titans. This is a team on the rise. They've got their quarterback of the future, it seems like, in Marcus Mariota. New GM John Robinson has come in and really changed the way that this team has been looked at over the last year, because this was a team 2 years ago that we looked at. Mariota coming off of an injury. They fired Ken Wisenhunt. You really didn't know what you were getting yourself into. You didn't know what this team was going to look like. And all of a sudden now, 1 year later, we're looking at this franchise in a totally different light. We think that Mariota is a big-time quarterback. If you listen to the NFL Top 100 list made by the players, Marcus Mariota is one of the best players, top 50 in the league, better than Kirk Cousins, better than Alex Smith, better than, yes, Andrew Luck, if you listen to the players. So he's held in high regard. And if you're going to hold a quarterback in such high regards, he needs a tag team partner. And so you look at GM John Robinson and you say, hey, if you can't get it in free agency, you better go get us one in the draft. And that's what they've done. 9-player draft. Let's jump into it. First selection for the Titans. Remember, 2 first-round picks after making the trade with the Philadelphia Eagles a season ago. 2 first-round picks for the Tennessee Titans. And so, or excuse me, the Los Angeles Rams, they made that trade with last season, which allowed them to have 2 first-rounders in 2017. The first of which, 5th overall, wide receiver out of Western Michigan. Corey Davis is the selection. We talked about going out and getting Marcus Mariota a big-time target. Well, here he is, first receiver off the board in this draft. 3 would eventually come off in the top 10, Davis being the first of which. And to me, he was the best receiver in his draft. I'm not going to break him down. I've already done so in the Draft Prospects 101 series. So if you're looking for a thorough breakdown of Corey Davis and some other prospects that I was able to knock down before the draft, be my guest. Check it out. 2017 NFL Draft Prospects 101 series in the playlist section on the Louie T Network. So Davis, for me, is a guy that can do it all. He can stretch the field, he can make some yards, run after the catch is his specialty. There are some drops from time to time, but this guy is electric. He's dynamic, and he's just what the doctor ordered for a Titans team that, to me, lacked punch at the #1 wide receiver position. They've got a ton of receivers, guys that can make plays, but none of them were #1s. You enter in Corey Davis and you feel like you've got the guy that can change the game at the receiver position for you now, with Tennessee in the first round, 5th overall selection, wide receiver out of Western Michigan. Corey Davis, to me, is hit hard. He's hit deep. You can put him on the board a home run for the Tennessee Titans. In the first round with wide receiver Corey Davis, despite not working out pre-draft, this was a guy that put a ton of footage on tape that showed his dynamic ability and his ability to stretch the field and run after the catch. And like I said, you want to make things a lot easier in Tennessee. They did a great job last offseason of addressing the offensive line and the run game to take some of the pressure off of Mariota. Here's another way to take pressure off of Mariota by getting him a big-time target that can help him stretch the field and also be able to just get the football out of his hands quickly and allow something big to still happen. You move on to their next pick in the draft, another first round pick, and that's how you get better, by having additional picks in the draft, especially when they're high like this. 18th overall selection, USC cornerback Adara Jackson is the pick. We talked about a ton of corners in this draft process, and I think one of the guys that we failed to talk about enough was Adara Jackson. And after watching the tape and seeing all that this guy brings to the table, and then realizing that he's still a young pup and has a lot to learn, I think we should have been talking about Adara Jackson more throughout this process. Let's talk about him now, though. 5'10", 186 pounds. Sheer athleticism is the first pro. This is a guy that is a track guy at SC, was a track guy coming out of high school, 4.42 guy. You see it on the field. The athleticism is abundantly apparent when you watch him on tape. It's dripping out of every nook and cranny of this guy's body, and this is what he brings to the table. Agility is the next pro, and to me, his agility is probably what puts him over the top in terms of making him such a dynamic athlete. You watch him out in space as a corner, you watch him out in space with the football, whether he is picking off a pass, whether he's running back a punt or a kickoff. You watch this guy out in space in general, whether it's a handoff on a jet sweep, or they're giving it to him out of the backfield, or they're throwing a swing pass to him out of the backfield. Whatever the case may be, this guy touches the football. He's dynamic, and a lot of that has to do with not just the electrifying speed that I just mentioned, that 4.42, but also the agility, his ability to stop and start and get back to top speed, his ability to change directions seamlessly without losing stride. It's these types of things that makes this guy as dynamic an athlete as he is. Fluidity in space is the next pro. You see it again, and I just mentioned that, but you see it, it doesn't matter what part of the field he's in or on or what he's doing, ball, no ball in his hands. He's just comfortable on the football field. From the time he sets foot on the field to the time he leaves it, he's comfortable on the field, and he loves to be out in space. And I think his fluidity in space makes this a no-brainer in terms of a guy that you are excited about if you're the Tennessee Titans. Improved coverage, and you talk about fluidity in space. You knew this guy had everything, all the intangibles to be the type of cornerback that the Titans envisioned him to be, and which is why they spent the first round pick on him. But you weren't sure if he was ever going to really get what it was going to take for him to take that next step to become a guy that you could entrust with making a first round selection on. And I think by watching him in 2016 and seeing him make some of the strides that he did as a corner, not just from a man-to-man standpoint, but a zone coverage and concepts and things coming at him and him being able to make plays, I think that was something that really intrigued a lot of scouts and GMs around the league, is seeing the improvement from 1 year to the next with him and saying, wow, that guy got that much better in just 1 year. Just think about what could happen when we get our hands on him. I think that was part of the allure of Adara Jackson in the first round, is that he got so much better from 2015 to 2016 as a corner. Remember, he came to USC as an athlete. Okay, get it to him out of the backfield as a running back. Get it to him out of the backfield as a receiver. Get it to him as a receiver out wide. Get it to him on punts and kickoffs. He was touching the football in so many different ways that he didn't really focus in on the one position that I think they realized this is going to be your best position, is the cornerback position. And so he got better And those improved skills, I think, is something that has the Tennessee Titans excited about this guy really growing into what they think he could be, and that's probably the #1 corner on their football team. Ball skills. Look, the guy can catch. The guy is an athlete. His ball skills are tremendous. It's natural. He's got natural hands. It just comes to him. He's one of those guys that things just come to him naturally. And ball skills and being able to pluck it out of the air, that's just one of those things. If you watch him at the combine, he made it look so easy, him catching the football. And you see it on tape. When the ball is in his general vicinity, he's attacking the ball like it's his. And he's one of those guys that is looking for the ball and looking to make a play on the football. He's definitely an LLCer, that is for sure. Look, locate, contest. He's not looking to contest. He's looking to go and get the football. Love that about Adara Jackson. Versatility, this is another one of those things that I think if you're the Tennessee Titans or any team for that matter that was considering taking Adara Jackson in the first round, this is probably one of the things that was high on your list of things that attracted you to Adara Jackson is his versatility. He can play out wide, which is what he did at SC. He can jump into the slot as well, and the quickness, the agility that I talked about, the start and stop, the ability to move, those are all things that lends itself to him playing in the slot as well. Then he gives you the ability to put him on offense if you like, wide receiver and running back. He did both of those things at SC. And then probably the biggest caveat of them all, special teams value, gives you the punt return, kick return aspect as well. So this guy is just so dynamic. He's so versatile. I think these are the types of things that saw Adara Jackson go off the board in the first round. Willing tackler. He's not the greatest tackler in the world, but he's not afraid to stick his nose in there and get in the fray and get his hands dirty. And so I can respect that. He's a guy that will go in and try to make tackles. Again, not the best in the world at it, but he's not afraid and he's not making a ton of business decisions. So I can respect Adara Jackson. And again, 186-pound frame. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's not afraid to get in the mix. And then finally, the biggest pro for me is his playmaking ability. Look, you say what you want about his size. You say what you want about his ability to play the cornerback position at this very moment. All of those things could be something that you can argue that he could get much better at. I get it, I understand. But the one thing you can't debate is this guy's playmaking ability. When he touches the football, big things generally happen in a positive manner for his team, whether it's on a defensive interception, whether it's on a kickoff return or a punt return, whether he's on offense and he's catching it out of the backfield, he's running it on a jet sweep, or he's just a decoy. Look, the guy is a playmaker. When he touches the football, 15 career touchdowns. Again, we're talking about a guy that didn't have a particular offensive position, he wasn't a guy that was supposed to touch it a ton of times, yet 15 career touchdowns in a multitude of ways. You want the breakdown, here it is. 6 as a wide receiver, 4 as a punt returner, 4 more as a kickoff returner. And oh, by the way, he picked one off and took it to the crib as well. So this guy scored touchdowns in 4 different ways. He's such a dynamic playmaker that if nothing else, if you just wipe the board clean of all the other things I said, and I just tell you that this guy is a game-breaking playmaker, 15 career touchdowns in 4 different ways, you still might take this guy in the first round. He's that dynamic of a football player when the ball is in his hands. You go from his pros to his cons. To me, he's still raw as a cornerback, but I'm not going to beat him up for that because I think that's to me one of those situations, glass half full, glass half empty. How are you looking at it? If you're the Titans, you're not looking at it as he's still raw as a cornerback. You're saying, wow, this guy has tremendous upside. Okay, we're going to take this guy, we're going to make him one of the best corners in the league, not to mention one of the best return men in the league as well. So it's all in perception and beauty being in the eye of the beholder. For me, he's still raw. To them, they're saying, man, that's tremendous upside. We can't wait to get our hands on him. The next con is he's susceptible to big plays. Now, this is something that you look at and you say, okay, we're going to need him to be a little bit more disciplined. He's one of those guys that's always, I talked about him being a game-breaking playmaker. He's always looking to make plays. And when you're looking to make plays, you're susceptible to giving up big plays because that means you're looking to jump on that slant. Well, what happens if it's a sluggo, a slant and go? Well, you just got. And we've seen him get beat. We saw him against John Ross come up to the line of scrimmage and try to press him off the line of scrimmage. John Ross breaks him off, a little stutter inside, and he falls down. And John Ross is gone for about a 55-yard touchdown. We've seen him give up some big plays, guys giving him a little bit of a stutter and a go, and boom, they're over the top on him. You can have Adara Jackson, especially when his eyes are in the backfield or he's watching the receiver and they give him a nice move. He will bite on a double move, and he can be susceptible to giving up the big play. He's got a smaller frame. That's the final con, excuse me. He's 5'10", 186. I've heard some people say maybe he's going to be a slot corner at the next level. That may ultimately be true, but you don't draft a guy in the first round to be a slot corner. I think they were going to give him every opportunity to play out wide, which I believe they should, because I think this is where this guy can make a living. You know, the receivers aren't getting any smaller. They're not getting any slower. They're not getting any shorter in terms of length. These guys are long, they're tall, they're fast, they're physical, all of which Adara Jackson is not except for the fast part. And so you kind of wonder, can he last? Can he live on the outside? I try him outside as many times as I could until he showed me that he couldn't. And so, his frame is small. I don't think he's going to put a ton more weight on. This isn't a guy that I think in 3 years we're going to be looking at a 198-pound corner. He may gain 4 or 5 pounds, but he's not gaining 15 pounds. So he pretty much is what he is as a corner. He's not going to get much taller. So 5'10", 186. Let's just call him 5'10", 190. I give him a chance to play out wide and see what he can do outside of the numbers. And then, in the case that he can kick inside and play slot, that's great. It's an added value. So if you're playing against a receiver that moves around like an AJ Green that can play outside or in the slot, guess what? Adara Jackson can do the same and follow him everywhere he goes on the field. So to me, this is a guy that can come in and change the game for you, and in a multitude of ways, whether it's offensively, defensively, or on special teams. What is there not to like about Adara Jackson in the first round, 18th overall selection? USC cornerback Adara Jackson is hit hard. He's hit deep. Out of here. Home run for the Titans. Back-to-back jacks for the Titans. You need to hit back-to-back home runs. You got 2 first-round picks. And like I said, Adara Jackson was one of those guys I don't think we talked about enough. At least I didn't talk about enough early in this process, leading up to the draft, at the cornerback position. All these corners, we fell in love with the big guys, the long guys, the fast guys. Forgot about a guy in Adara Jackson that can do just about everything on the football field. And he goes off the board relatively early in the first round. You go to the third round, 72nd pick overall, Western Kentucky wide receiver Taiwan Taylor is the pick. And Taiwan Taylor is an interesting guy. I watched him early on in the process, had a number of draft beatniks talking about him and saying how this guy could be one of those sleeper players. So I watched some film on him early on in the process, and I was impressed. And then I watched more tape on him, and I kind of cooled off on him a little bit. I was really high on Taiwan Taylor early on in the process. Not so much later on, but the guy is a good football player. Let's talk about him. His first pro, athleticism and agility. You put those two things together. He's a 4.5 flat guy. He had one of the best 3-cone times at the combine. So it's a guy that offers you a lot in the way of athleticism and agility. I think agility is probably one of his best attributes, especially when it comes to his route running ability, which we will touch on here in a second. But he's got solid hands. Every single Titans pass catcher that we'll talk about in this draft has issues with their hands, or at least catching the football on a consistent basis. There are concentration drops at some point with each and every single one of these guys that are pass catchers in this draft. And there's no difference here. He's no exception to the rule. His hands are solid, but they're not great. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. He's tough, though. For a guy that's only 5'11", that 203-pound frame gives him the ability to be tough. He'll go over the middle. He'll do some dirty things in terms of doing the dirty work for you, but he's also very cognizant of when the safety's coming, which he probably should be, head on a swivel. But those also lead to drops sometimes. But again, he's not afraid to go over the middle. That is for certain. He's a tough guy. But again, he's not going to hesitate to get down on the ground when need be. And you saw that in the Alabama game. He makes a guy miss, which I don't even know how. He makes 2 defenders miss. Don't know how he gets out of that tackle, but then he sees another defender coming and he jumps down on the deck. So he's a tough guy, but he knows when to say when as well. Route running ability, he's a superb route runner. I think that's what's going to win him over on this Titans roster. What's going to get him on the field fast. What's going to give him an opportunity to see a lot of playing time in his rookie season is his ability to run routes. I expect this guy to have some really big opportunities in the slot to win. He's the type of guy that can win because of his route running ability, because of his quickness. Sometimes he can get a little freelancy, kind of go off the cuff, so to speak. He had the freedom to do that at Western Kentucky. We'll talk about some of the things that I didn't like at Western Kentucky a little bit later on with Taiwan Taylor. But one thing's for sure, the guy can run routes, he can break dudes off, and that's going to benefit him in Tennessee right away. Yaxter, this is a guy that, much like Corey Davis, is going to catch the football, make some guys miss, out in space, get yards after the catch. That's his specialty. That's what he does best, is when he gets the football in his hands, he's looking to get up the field and get extra yards. And he's one of the best in this draft at doing so. Slot winner. To me, he's going to make his living at the next level in the slot. I think that's where his bread is going to be buttered. I think that's where the Titans are going to try to utilize him. And I think that's where he's going to be best utilized because of his skill set at the next level. And so, to me, he can win in the slot because of his ability to start and stop, because of his ability to break guys off at the stem of a route, because of his ability to do the little things correctly. I think this is a guy that has a chance to really win in a league where tight ends are becoming a big fixture of the offense, and slot guys are becoming more prominent than ever. This is the type of guy that you want in your slot, if you ask me. And finally, his collegiate production over the last 2 years was phenomenal. 184 catches over the last 2 years for 3,197 yards and 34 touchdowns, 17 touchdowns in each of the last 2 seasons. Some big receiving numbers. This guy's been phenomenal for Western Kentucky. They knew he was getting the rock, and he still went out and performed week in and week out. High volume guy. We'll talk about that here in a second. Speaking of which, let's get to his cons. Concentration drops. The same concentration drops you saw with Corey Davis. You see them with Taiwan Taylor as well. Just needs to focus. I know this guy can catch the football. I just need to see him catching on a more consistent basis and not have the silly 3rd and 5 drops where he's looking to get up the field and make a guy miss. Well, you can't do anything else if you don't catch the football. All the other stuff is irrelevant if you don't catch the football. So he just needs to focus, see the football into his hands, and catch the football. He's disinterested in blocking. Now, I don't want to single him out, because if you watch the Western Kentucky team, I don't think that run blocking is a point of emphasis for their receiving core as a whole. I think the receivers are told to run their defenders off, and they don't necessarily have to block. And when the run is going away from Taiwan Taylor, he doesn't even make a conscious effort to run guys off. I mean, he literally doesn't give any effort as a run blocker. And like I said, that was an epidemic that was team-wide for Western Kentucky. So I don't want to just single him out, but I'm going to need him to give more effort at the NFL level. And they're going to require, I don't know if they required them to block at Western Kentucky. He's going to be required to block at the NFL level. And then finally, I think he's going to be relegated to slot duty only in the NFL. He could probably go out wide. I just don't know if he's going to succeed or not out wide as well as he would in the slot, where he's going to have a two-way go at all times, which is going to make it tougher on the defender to know exactly what's going on. I think his best football will be played in the slot, and I think that's where the Titans are going to use him, and I think that's where he probably belongs, and I think that's where he's going to be primarily for this Titans football team. So I like Taiwan Taylor. I think that Taiwan Taylor is, I think I've said his name at least 5 different times or in 5 different ways in talking about it. But at the end of the day, Taiwan Taylor for me is the type of receiver that they need. I think they lacked a true threat in the slot last season. And Mariota, for him to take that next step, needed a number 1, check. They need to get a guy that can win in the slot, check. They've got tight ends. You add another one in this draft that could potentially help. And so now you're filling out this roster and all the skill positions around Mariota, because the running game was on point last year, and I expect it to get better. Another year for Derrick Henry. I think there's still a lot of good football left in DeMarco Murray. The offensive line is young and they're hungry. You got a ton of offensive weaponry at receiver, and now with a guy like Corey Davis coming in and Taiwan Taylor, you feel like you're filling out the receiving core the way that it needs to be. There's a lot of talent here in the 3rd round, 72nd pick overall. Western Kentucky wide receiver Taiwan Taylor for me is a triple. This guy's got a specific role, I think, that he's going to come in and fill. And I think it's in the slot, winning on 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7. When Mariota's looking for a guy over the middle of the field to win, that guy I think is going to be Taiwan Taylor in no time, flat. You go to the next 3rd round selection, 100th pick overall. Florida International tight end Jonnu Smith is the pick. This is a guy that comes in at 6'3", 248 pounds, so first pro is his size. A lot of people are questioning his size as far as him being able to put on more weight. I don't think he can. I think his frame is maxed out, but at 6'3", 248 pounds, he looks, to me, eerily similar to the guy that's already on your team, and he's one of the best tight ends in the league, in Delanie Walker when he's healthy. So I don't think that 6'3", 248 is inadequate size-wise. I think it's the perfect size for him to come in and do what the Titans need him to do. His athleticism is the next pro. 4'6" guy, 38-inch vert, 10'5" broad. This guy is a really good athlete. When you see him, he looks like a wide receiver. So it doesn't surprise me, it doesn't shock me that this guy's a really good athlete, because you can kind of see it when you just look at his frame. Then you see him catch the football, you see him run around, and you say, okay, yeah, this guy's a really well put together athlete, and that is in fact the case. Fluid movement skills. They ran a ton of bubble screens, or not bubble screens, but just a ton of quick hitters, hitches, just quick hitters. Much like Western Kentucky, the thing that really frustrated me about Taiwan Taylor is that there were a ton of quick hitters, man. You just got, they literally fed you quick hitter after quick hitter, hitches and bubbles out of the slot. A lot of quick hitters, to the point where you're like, does this guy go vertical at all? Does he get up the field? Can I see him do something 10, 15, 20 yards down the field? Everything was at the line of scrimmage. Same thing with Jonnu Smith. You're like, man, do you go up the field? But I saw him go up the field a couple of times. Anyway, even on these hitches, he caught the football. He was making guys miss. He was getting yards after the catch. He's really good out in space. Really fluid movement skills for Jonnu Smith. He's a yakster. Again, a lot of short underneath stuff. Same with Taylor, which really was just hard to watch because it was over and it was repetitive. Oh, did I just not watch this play? Nope, it's a different play. It's the same play, but it's a different play. Okay, same result. You know, 1 yard pass, 7 yard gain. 1 yard pass, another 8 yards. A 1 yard pass, this time for 9. 1 yard pass, you can get 5. It was a lot of the repetitive underneath, you know, dink and dunk type of stuff. But again, he's a guy that catches the football, makes things happen after the catch. He's got some run blocking ability. I was impressed with his physicality in the run game. really competed his ass off. And so that's something that you can hang your hat on. Jonnu Smith is a guy that I could see being an H-back in the league. I could see him being a tight end, a flex guy. I could see them moving him around, even playing some fullback if need be, because he's got that ability, man. He's not afraid to stick his helmet in the chest of a defender and get physical and grimy and nasty in the run game. He did it a lot at FIU and did it well, as a matter of fact. Formational flexibility kind of speaks to what I was just talking about. They moved him all around. They used him as an inline wide tight end. They detached him and used him as a U. He split out all the way wide in situations. They used him as an H-back where he would line up and go into motion and come back and wham guys. He was a lead blocker at times. He was everywhere, okay? So Jonnu Smith is a guy that offers formational flexibility as well. Go to his cons, however. Unsure hands. Again, remember I talked about every pass catcher in this draft had some issues with drops. Again, Jonnu Smith, no different. Another one of these guys that you just saw him and you say, okay, I need you to catch that. You know, there were times where you could tell he didn't trust his hands. He felt more comfortable catching the football with his body. I don't think he's a natural hands catcher per se. We'll see if he gets any better, you know, with being able to just practice his craft a little bit better. Maybe his hands will become a little bit more dependable. Right now, I just don't see his hands being as reliable as you would like them to be. Injury history, sprained his knee in 2015, missed the final 4 games of the season, and then probably had one of the weirdest stories of 2016 coming out of college football. His pregnant girlfriend gets upset, doesn't feel like she's getting the love and attention that she deserves, boils a hot pot of water and pours it on his head. He missed a game because of it, so I don't know if you're gonna have crazy girlfriend issues while he's in the league or not, but that's a scary situation. Hopefully those types of incidents with her, if he's still with her, I don't know if they're together or not, but hopefully that's in the past and that's not something as a Tennessee Titans fan you guys are going to have to worry about moving forward. And then finally, the last con is more of a question. What is he? What is Jonnu Smith? Is he a legit inline blocking tight end at the next level? Most people think he's not. Okay, well, if he's not, what is he? Is he an H-back? Is he the type of guy that you just move around and you use as a chess piece? Is he a guy that you only look to throw the football to and then at certain occasions you ask him to block? What is Jonnu Smith? Is he a guy that you can feel confident lining up in tight as a traditional tight end and asking him to block at the point of attack at the next level? I think he can do it. We will see. But in any event, 3rd round, 100th pick overall, FIU tight end Jonnu Smith for me is a double. His hands are a question, and I think Mike Mayock said it best. He doesn't do anything great. He does everything good. And so nothing really stands out, whereas I've coined the term Pam-Mon, okay? Proficient at many, master of none. And so that's, to me, in a nutshell, what Jonnu Smith is. You go to the 5th round, 155th pick overall, UCLA linebacker Jaylon Brown is the selection. Another place where the Titans struggled a season ago, coverage at the linebacker position. And so this is a guy that you think will come in and immediately compete for snaps on 3rd downs in obvious passing situations, running with some of the athletic tight ends around the league. And speaking of which, his first pro athleticism. All right, 4.70 at the combine, cleaned it up, ran a 4.58 at his pro day. To me, he's right in the middle of that. Looks like a 4.62, 4.64 type of guy. I can see 4.58 at times. So that's a believable time. Fluid movement skills. This is the guy out in space. When you don't touch him, he's dangerous. He's one of those guys that get in the backfield, shoot the gap, get in the backfield, 3-yard tackle for loss. All right, you put a hand on him, totally different story. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but as far as movement skills out in space is concerned, this guy's tremendous in terms of coverage, and we're going to talk about that here in a second because that is exactly what they drafted him to do. Plays with patience. I love the fact that he's not out of control. He's one of those guys that kind of takes a second to digest what the offense is trying to do and then reacts to it. You know, sometimes you don't make plays that way, but other times you save plays from being made. I'll give you an example, and this kind of goes with his high football IQ, which is another pro for me. They tried to run a couple of plays against the UCLA defense. One in particular was a quarterback throwback pass. So the quarterback threw the ball to a receiver. Then the quarterback kind of just slow plays it like, yeah, I'm out of the play. Then he tries to take off down the sideline up the field, and they throw it back to him. Jaylon Brown not having it, okay? He was all over that play. It was because he played with patience. Had he been one of those aggressive, over-aggressive linebackers that goes off of first movement, as soon as that ball flies out to the outer hash, he would have took off, and all of a sudden the quarterback leaks out, and he's wide open down the field. Jaylon Brown patiently took his time, saw what was going on, read the play, broke it up, wasn't having it. So he's that kind of guy, plays with patience, flows to the football extremely well, but he, again, very patient. Sometimes it pays off, other times it does not. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But to me, his best and biggest attribute that he brings to the table is that he's tremendous in coverage. Doesn't matter, zone, man, does a phenomenal job of finding work in the secondary as a zone dropping defender. Does a good job of zone matching, guys running through a zone and him picking them up. In man-to-man coverage, he does a good job of getting his head around, locating the football. I saw him make a beautiful play against Tyler McNamara and the Taylor McNamara and the USC Trojans. He's running a little bit of a seam route up the field, and Jaylon Brown gets his head around at the last second and rips the football out of his hands, almost picks it off. It's those types of plays that lends itself to him being a really good coverage defender. His 2-year production. This was a guy that got an opportunity to play because Miles Jack got injured a couple seasons ago at UCLA. Opened the door for a guy like Jaylon Brown to get more snaps, and he took full advantage. Had 93 tackles in that season. Turned around, had another 105 tackles this past season for a total of 198 tackles over the last 2 seasons. In that same span, 3 INTs and another 12 PBUs. So this guy's all over the field. PBUs, pass breakups, for those of you who didn't know. This guy's all over the field. He's getting his hands on footballs. He's picking some of them off. He's making tackles. He's all over the football field. This is a guy that I think is going to have a niche. He's a niche linebacker to me. I look at him. He's a niche linebacker at the next level. We're going to talk about that here with his cons. Size is the first con. He's 6 feet, 231 pounds. Look, that's the new wave of linebackers. I've said this already when we talk about Reuben Foster and some of these guys. The new age linebacker is around 6 feet, 6'1", 235 pounds or so. I mean, that's where the league is heading. Faster, quicker, but you also got to be physical, and I don't think Jaylon Brown is that. And speaking of which, he's a non-factor in the run game or as a blitzer. To me, he was egregious in the run game. I watched big run after big run happen. Just go watch the Utah game where Joe Williams just runs ramshot right over that Euclid defense. And a big part of why he was able to do that is Jaylon Brown is a magnet on defense for offensive linemen. He finds an offensive lineman and says, hey, you, guy, block me right here. And he does a really poor job of finding the hole, first of all. Second of all, he does a really poor job of avoiding offensive linemen. Third of all, he does a poor job of when contacting them and engaging them, disengaging and getting to the football. He's a guy that once you got him, you got him. And he's a non-factor in the run game. He is a liability, if you ask me, in the run game. And also, as a blitzer, he's vanilla. He's coming straight at you. There's no wiggle. There's no move. There's nothing to stop a guy from just picking him up. And you don't even have to be a great pass protector at the running back position to block a guy like Jaylon Brown, because he's not doing anything extraordinary. He's just running straight. So don't think he adds any value other than being a guy that can cover on third downs and passing situations, which takes me to my final con. He's a coverage linebacker only to me. I don't see him coming in and filling any other voids. Like I said, when you don't block him, guy's dangerous. He'll go in the backfield and he'll get a 3-yard tackle for loss. But if you put a body on him, he's done. End of discussion. And so I think if you're the Titans, you have to be careful of how you use this guy. If you know it's a known passing situation and the other team's got a running back out of the backfield that may hurt you, or a tight end that's a really athletic guy, Jaylon Brown's the man for the job. But if you're looking to stop the run on first and second down and they're in a situation where they could run or pass it on 3rd and 3, I don't know if you want Jaylon Brown necessarily in the game. I'm not saying. I'm just saying in the 5th round, 155th pick overall, Euclid linebacker Jaylon Brown for me is a double as we move on to the next pick in the draft. In the 6th round, 217th overall pick, Tennessee Chattanooga offensive lineman Corey Levin is the selection. 6'4", 307 pounds. His frame is the first pro. He's got 33.5-inch arms. This is the guy that played tackle and guard at Tennessee Chattanooga. Has heavy hands. I watched him deliver a blow once while watching him, and it was a pretty aggressive blow. It knocked the defensive lineman off balance a little bit, and you can see that he's got some heavy hands that helps him. He was dominant in the first game I watched him in against Jacksonville State in the playoffs. He dominated, and it showed me that this guy's got a potential to be able to get it done. Now, again, it's Jacksonville State, but I thought it was a really good showing. And then you kind of compare and contrast that against Alabama. We'll talk about that a little bit later on and how he fared in that game. Above average movement skills. I looked at Corey Levin, I looked at his body type, and I said, okay, he's a plotter, not going to be very athletic. Don't expect him to get to the second level very aggressively nor efficiently. Not going to get out in front of any screens. Probably going to have a pretty tough time getting to reach blocks. Wrong, wrong, and wrong. He moved well, got to the second level, got out in front of screens, was able to get not necessarily to every single reach block, but he was in good position on a lot of his blocks, and it was because he takes good angles as a blocker, which was the next pro, and he's got pretty good athleticism. He's got above average movement skills. I was surprised. I'm not gonna lie to you. He's got experience at guard and tackle. That's the next pro. I don't think he's gonna play tackle at all at the next level. I think they're gonna wanna see, can he play center and guard, not tackle and guard. But it's good to know that he's got experience out wide as well. If need be in a pinch, emergency tackle situation, he may be able to go out there and give you some snaps if need be. And he's got awareness. I think as a guard, one of your biggest jobs as a guard is to be able to see what's happening, pick up blitzes, be able to pass off twists and stunts effectively, not allow guys to sneak by you. And I think he does a really good job of passing off twists and stunts, picking up looping defensive linemen, picking up blitzers, just being really adequate at seeing what's going on around him and making sure that he doesn't have any mental lapses. So, you go from his pros to his cons. Let's talk about that Bama game, shall we? Because I kind of foreshadowed a little bit of what was to come. He dominated in the first game I watched him in against Jacksonville State. You put that Bama game on and he looked overmatched. He looked like a guy that was outclassed, which, look, again, it was Bama. Of course he was overmatched. Of course he was outclassed, but you would have loved to have seen him hold his own. The reason why you see a guy like the Western Kentucky guard be held in such high regard in the draft, and I think Forrest Lamp ended up coming off the board as one of the first guards in the second round to the Chargers, is because he dominated versus Bama. Okay, when we put you up against elite competition, we want to see you react accordingly. And Corey Levin got put up against elite competition and he struggled. They were ragdolling him. I watched Jonathan Allen take him, shake him, and bake him, throw him on the ground and get rid of him. And they were doing what they wanted to do to him in that game, and he was overmatched. He was out of his comfort zone in that football game, and that's what you're going to see week in and week out in the league. Is guys that look like Alabama every single week, and that was a little disheartening. Is he strong enough? That Bama game made me ask the question: is this guy strong enough? I think he might have to actually get physically stronger in the weight room, because the way they were tossing him around, the way they were bull rushing him, the way they were moving him consistently in that game doesn't lend itself to this guy being a guy that's strong enough to anchor at the point of attack against stronger defenders. So I'd like to see him get stronger. Then finally, can he play center? All right. He played tackle. He played guard. In college, can he play center as well? That's a question. You always like to think, hey, if you can play guard, you can play center, right? How much harder can it be? Center is the second hardest position to play on the offensive line. Or I shouldn't say second hardest. It actually may be the hardest. I think it's the second most important behind the tackle position, depending on what side your quarterback is throwing the football from, left-handed, right-handed quarterback. Most quarterbacks in the league. I don't even know if we have any left-handed quarterbacks starting as we speak right now. So left tackle position would be the most important, followed by the center position if you ask me. So center is a tough position. You got to make the line calls. You got to adjust the protections. You are the brains of the operation up front. So it's not as easy as it sounds. Just because you play guard, you don't want to make the assumption you can play center, but you'd like to think you can, but that's a question that you got to ask. In the 6th round, 217th overall selection, Tennessee Chattanooga offensive lineman Corey Levin for me is a double. There's some things you can work with here, but he's going to have to get stronger because, again, that Alabama tape was damning. You watch that and you say, I don't know if this guy's got what it takes to get it done at the next level unless he improves upon some things. That is for certain. You go to the 7th round. Titans has 3 7th-round selections. Let's jump into the first of those 3. 227th pick overall. TCU edge rusher Josh Caraway is the selection. 6'3", 242 pounds. Let's start there. Athleticism and length combo. All right, that's the first pro. 4'7", 440, which isn't eye-popping, but it's a glimpse into what this guy can do. He's got a quick burst, but those arms are 34-inch arms. So you get length, get a little bit of athleticism. This guy's got true edge burst. That's the next pro. He's the type of guy, I watched him against Arkansas. And this was the play that for me said, okay, there's something here. Now, he didn't tap into it enough for me, for my liking. A lot of his sacks that I saw him get were coverage sacks, were hustle sacks, were multiple effort sacks, which I want to see my elite edge rushers, my guys going up the field, winning with initial rushes, not because the secondary was able to hold up or the quarterback was frazzled and didn't like what he saw and held on to the ball too long. I want to see you win off the snap. And this was one of those plays where he won off the snap, which showed me the true burst. He's going up against a 6'10" tackle at Arkansas. Guy's massive. Well, what you will know is a 6'10" guy is going to have trouble bending, okay? He doesn't want a guy dipping his hips and dipping that shoulder and bending that corner and running that track and running that arc, because he can't, at 6'10", he can't get but so low. So he gets off the line of scrimmage, he bursts off the snap, he dips that shoulder, gets around the corner, and hog ties the quarterback, yanks him down, throws him down for a sack. I said, that there's something here with Josh Caraway. You just don't get it enough. But again, Dick LeBeau is the perfect guy to try to get something out of a guy like Josh Caraway. He's got good flexibility. It's not great. It's not DeMarcus Ware. That's the guy I always compare everyone to when you're talking about bending the edge DeMarcus Ware, to me, was one of the best at 6'4", to be able to bend the way that he did around the edge. When he was healthy, there wasn't anybody better at bending the corner and turning that corner into a short one by being able to run that track, bend that corner, run that track in that arc, and get to the quarterback and really close that distance between the edge and the quarterback. He's got active hands. Now, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing with them, but they're active. And that's what you like to see, a guy that knows that he has hands, that there's some extremities here that you can use to try to help you get to the quarterback. There are a lot of guys that don't realize that, hey, these are in play. This isn't soccer. You can actually use your hands. And so he's got active hands. He's doing stuff with them. He just doesn't know what. But he's got them and he's using them. He just doesn't know how. Again, another trait that if you're a good coach, you'll figure out a way to get this guy to put all of this stuff together. All the intangibles are here with Josh Caraway. Just doesn't know how to use them yet. He can cast a wide net as a tackler. And what that means is that length, those 34-inch arms that I talked about, they act as magnets. When he gets close to a ball carrier, for some way, somehow, go gadget arms, he stretches them out. Next thing you know, he's wrapping the guy up. And he may get drugged for a yard or two, but he's got his hands on him. He's not letting go. He's going to rope him, get him down on the ground. So does a really good job of casting a wide net with those long arms and getting ball carriers in his grasp. Solid range, man. This guy can run. He covers a lot of ground. He's a long, lanky defender. So when he runs and he opens up, covers a lot of ground. One of those guys that if you don't block him on the backside, oh, we won't block this guy. He's too far. He won't make it. Okay, go ahead. Try your luck with Josh Caraway. Don't block him on the backside if you don't like to, and see what happens. See the end result there. And deflections. I love the fact that this guy, because he's long and he understands, okay, I'm not going to get there. Quarterback's going to throw the football. Gets his hands up. I love that about him. Gets a lot of deflections doing that. Good things happen when you get your hands on the football. Look, you know you're not going to make it to the quarterback. Next best thing, get your hands up. See if you can't create some havoc. And that's what Josh Caraway does. You go to his cons, he's got a lanky frame, and I don't know if he's putting much more on it. That 6'3", 242 looks like 6'3", 232. He looks really slender, really small. Again, I don't think he's going to put much more on his frame. And that frame doesn't allow him to be physical at the point of attack, which we'll get to a little bit later on. Passive aggressive. He's too nice on the football field, man. There are too many times where you see him and he's kind of just like, all right, I'm gonna hold contain over here. You cool with that? And the tackle's like, look, bro, if you're not gonna be aggressive, I'm not gonna be aggressive. I'm cool with just standing in front of you and making sure you don't do anything to impact this play. And he's like, well, I'm cool. If you cool, we cool. And he'll just sit there and kind of do this shadow dance and do nothing. And I think that kind of spills its way into the run game when it is time for him to ante up and man up and pony up and be physical in the run game. And that kind of passive aggressive demeanor spills into that. And he gets his ass kicked in the run game and he's not effective enough in the run game. He's not a guy that you want on the field on first and second downs, which takes me to my next con. He's just a situational pass rusher. When I look at him, I say, this guy has the tools to be a really dominant edge rusher in passing situations, but you're going to have to fine-tune some things with him. I told you all the ingredients are there to make a wonderful concoction. You just gotta work with him, but he has no rush plan. That's my final con. There's no rhyme or reason to what he does. He's not setting guys up. It's maddening watching Josh Caraway because you know the talent is there. You know everything that you need to have a guy that's putting up 13.5 sacks year in and year out is there. He just doesn't know what he's doing and he doesn't have any direction. There's a lack of drive. The things that you want to have in a dominant edge rusher, he doesn't have it innately, okay? All of the ingredients are there, the things you can't teach, the length, the athleticism, the burst, all of those things. He has that flexibility. He doesn't know how to utilize all of these things. So I think he needs some good coaching. He's not physical at the point of attack at all. To me, he's a third down situational pass rusher, but you still got to get that out of him. Like, he's not coming ready to do that. You got to get that out of him. And so you take a 7th round flyer on a guy like Josh Caraway. That's the perfect round to take him in, because if he does develop, you got yourself a gem. You unearth yourself a big time pass rusher. If he doesn't, you say, hey, there's a 7th round investment, you move on and keep it moving. So in the 7th round, 227th pick overall, TCU edge rusher Josh Caraway for me is a double. There are some things here that are intangibles that you can't coach, that he has. Not to mention his hands are active. He just doesn't know what he's doing with them. Bottom line is, there's stuff here. If you coach him up, you could have yourself a 7, 8, 9 sack guy coming off the bench in just pure passing situations. You go to the next 7th round pick, 236 overall. Villanova offensive tackle Brad Seaton is the pick. Wow, this is a mountain of a man. Massive size and length. It's the first pro. 6'9", 330, 34-inch arms. It takes a lot to make Tanel Passingnon. If you remember, the big 6'7", 290-pound defensive end that at 4% body fat, it's hard to make him look small. But standing next to Brad Seaton, Tano Passingnon looked small. Again, 6'7", 290 looked small. That's how I knew this guy was massive. 6'9", 330, and he looks every bit the part. Good movement skills. For a guy that big, he actually moves really well. It's what Mike Mayock would call a dancing bear. He's a pretty good athlete for his size. He's got a nasty disposition, man. This guy loves to be physical. I can't tell you how many times I watched him take and throw a guy down onto the turf. Now, we're going to talk about him throwing guys down to the turf in a second, but man, is he physical. Man, is he nasty. Man, does he love football. Man, does he like being physical, nasty, and mean. Second level worker, man. This guy's looking for work. I know a lot of offensive linemen, they're like, hey, that job's done, okay? I did my shift. I'm going to punch my card, and I'm going home. This guy's like, wait a minute. You giving me overtime? I can get more work? Show me where it's at. This guy's looking for work on the second level, and he loves going and getting it. And he's under control when he goes and gets that work on the second level. I know a lot of guys, especially 6'9", 330, they get that ball rolling downhill, and they're out of control, okay? They're running to the second level, but they're not necessarily doing anything. It's not the case with Brad Seaton, man. He gets to that second level, and he's actually putting a hat on a guy, man. It was impressive to watch. He anchors well. At 6'9", 330, you better anchor well. You better not be getting bull rushed into the lap of your quarterback. And 30 straight starts at Villanova. That's impressive. Big guy on the field, available week in, week out. His cons. His hands tend to be wide. I talked about him throwing guys on the ground. If you look at a lot of those throwdowns and those takedowns, that's a lot of jersey being grabbed. To me, he's really grabby. All right, he's taking a guy, and you can actually see the jersey extend, and then he's throwing him on the ground. If you're gonna pick up a penalty doing that, I prefer you to not do that. All right, now again, he played at Villanova. He's not gonna be doing that to NFL guys. I mean, I know he's a big guy, but he was tossing around, 6'1", 225-pound dudes. You're not doing that. You're not encountering those guys on a consistent basis at the next level. So I just want to see his hands go inside a little bit more, be a little bit tighter, closer to the numbers. He was way outside, and that's how you get yourself in trouble at the next level. Leverage could be an issue. I'm not telling you something that you don't already know. I tell you, the guy's 6'9", you should be able to draw an inference right then and there that, yeah, guys are going to be able to get up under his pads and maybe drive him back. So I talked about him anchoring well. Yeah, he anchored well at Villanova. That could be a problem that could be in the makings at the next level. And finally, situational awareness. You know, I watched him in a few games just turn guys loose. I watched him against Pitt, and there were a couple of 4th down situations early in that ball game that could have really changed the whole tide of that game. And he just turned guys loose. He initially blocked him and then let him go. And I'm like, wait a minute. We talked about you going to the second level and getting work, which is great. But you can't ask for seconds if you didn't finish what was already on your plate. Like, you don't get to say, hey, thanks for 3 slices of pizza. I only ate 1.5. I would like 2 more slices, please. No, you don't get more pizza when you still have pizza left on your plate. You don't get to go to the second level and get more work if you didn't finish the work on the first level. And he would just turn guys loose. And I watched him do that in a playoff game, okay, against South Dakota State, where he just turned the guy loose. Sent his quarterback on a wild goose chase, and he had to end up throwing the football away. Like, hey, guy, you can't just turn guys loose when you feel like you're done with them. It's not how it goes. It's 4th and 1. You can't turn the defensive end loose and expect him not to go and get the running back, which is what he did in the Pitt game. And again, really disappointed in his situational awareness. You can't turn guys loose at certain situations. There's a time and a place to turn a guy loose. 4th and 1, that's not the time nor the place to do that. So in any event, 7th round, 236 overall pick. Villanova offensive tackle Brad Seaton for me is a double, man. I see this guy having swing tackle potential written all over him. The type of guy that you dress each and every single week as a swing tackle. Somebody goes down on the offensive line at left or right tackle. You either shift over that right tackle to left tackle and slide him in at right tackle. I think he's a right tackle. So whatever happens, Brad Seaton is a guy that I think you come in, and if the other guy's only at right tackle and he's comfortable at right tackle, then you take Brad Seaton and you say, all right, you go play left tackle for me, big boy. And so I think he's the perfect type of guy to have. We'll see if he develops well enough, they like him enough to keep him on the roster as a swing tackle. And then finally, 7th round, 241st pick overall, Cal running back Khalfani Muhammad is the selection. Pure athleticism is the first pro. 4'3", 440, 35.5-inch vert, 10'6" broad. The guy is an athlete, and you see it on tape. Those numbers tell you all you need to know. He got drafted because he ran the 4'3", 440 first and foremost. All right, that explosion got him drafted. The 38-inch vert and the 10'6" broad, all that does is reconfirm what the speed tells you, that this guy's explosive and dynamic. Speaking of which, tremendous acceleration. Those numbers that I just told you pretty much lend itself to that exertion or that accusation there that he's got acceleration, but the tape tells you that he's got acceleration. I watched him outrun numerous angles on tape, and I'm one of those guys, when I watch the tape, if you tell me you're fast, I'm saying, hey, I'll run that guy, win that foot race. And he's like, I got it, man, I got it. I'm fast, I'm legit fast. This isn't track fast, which this guy's a hell of a track athlete. But this isn't track fast, this translates to football. And I watched him against Oregon State, and their safeties coming from both sides, both angles. They've got the angle to win, and he splits those safeties, and he scores a touchdown from about 55, 60 yards out. You see him outrun a bunch of defenders on multiple plays. This is the type of guy that if he gets a seam, he's got an opportunity. He's going to make some plays. True home run ability. I watched this guy big play after big play. I watched him score a big run against Washington. I watched him score on a big run versus Oregon State. I watched him make big play after big play after big play. He's got true home run hitting ability from the running back position. He's got quality vision. He's the type of guy that sees the field really well, especially out in space. He knows when to cut it back, when to keep straight, and just say, hey, try and catch me if you can. He's got some pass catching ability. I did see him drop a touchdown versus UCLA, which really made my stomach hurt. But he can catch the football. In that same game, I saw him catch another touchdown. So he's a guy that can catch the football. He's tough as nails. 5'7", 175. You're not expecting this guy to be really physical, looking to take on contact, but Khalfani Muhammad is a really physical guy, and he's looking to finish off runs with a thud. And then finally, special teams value. This guy's a kickoff return specialist, and I think if you're smart, you won't overuse your first round pick out of USC, Adara Jackson. I think you might want to take one of those special teams roles. I'd like to see him stay on punt returns, take him off of kickoff returns. And so I think Khalfani Muhammad is a guy that you don't have anybody on your roster that looks like him, okay? You got a bunch of backs that do a number of different things, but nobody's running that fast. Nobody offers you what he can offer you. I think there's a space on your roster for a guy like Khalfani Muhammad. You go to his cons, his size, you don't want him touching the rock too many times, even though I think he's a guy that can handle himself. At Cal, it was like a three-headed, running back monster. That's what you got going on in Tennessee right now. It's 2. Add him to the mix, it could be 3. So his size is a problem, but only if you make it a problem. I want to see more wiggle out of him. He can do it. I watched him on one play break a guy down, like gave him an inside, outside cut, and it was quick. It was painful to watch for the defender, and then he just went right by him, and I'm like, so you can do that. Then I need to see more of that, all right? He doesn't do it enough, and I think the reason that he doesn't have any kickoff returns for touchdowns is part of that reason is because A, you can't let kickers catch you. I saw a kicker tackle. You can't let the kicker get you. And B, he doesn't juke guys enough. And I think he can. I think he does have the ability to do that. And finally, I think he's only a guy that can play on third downs and on specials. Like, he's not a guy that's going to get a bunch of first and second down touches, which even on this team, it wouldn't be necessary, but I think he's relegated to just third downs and kickoff returns at the next level. And so you kind of put a guy that's 5'7", 175 in a box. And when you're 5'7", 175, you go in that box. And I think third down back, special teams is all he can offer you, which is why he's the 7th round pick. In the 7th round, 231st pick overall, Cal running back Khalfani Muhammad. For me, is a double, man. He's intriguing because, like I said, there's no other back on this roster that looks like Khalfani Muhammad. No one else possesses that type of speed. No one else gives you the versatility to play specials. I think there's a place on this roster for a guy like Khalfani Muhammad. So that's the Titans draft in a nutshell. 9 picks in all. You attacked a number of positions that needed to be addressed. And so I think it was a really quality draft by the Titans. Let's go over their scores quickly. 2 first-round picks, back-to-back jacks to start out this draft. You didn't get a triple in Western Kentucky wide receiver Taiwan Taylor. Then the rest of the picks are all doubles, 6 in all, which nets you 4 doubles bonuses. You tally all of that up, you get a 31. You divide by the number of picks, 9, which nets the Titans a 3.44 triple in the 2017 NFL draft. That's going to do it for the Tennessee Titans in their draft. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. I will see you next time. I've only got one question for you. Who's next?